tell us what you like about Nick Leddy and why you made the trade.
Well, I think Nick brings experience. If you look at the last couple of playoff years, his team has played into the semifinals, and his ice time last year, I think, he was one in the top three, and I think the ice time between him and the other two were a 12-second differential. So, and the year before, he was again in the top three in a team that went to the semis. So he's a guy that can log big minutes at important times of the year for teams that play deep. And he's a skater, he's a puck mover. I think it's a dimension that will add to our group. With Scandella and Mikkel and Bortz, they were very similar players, and Wallman's also a skater but doesn't nearly have the experience of a player like Nick. So I think it gives us an option to potentially play Nick with Colton or Falker and have the coaches work all 6 and 7 of these guys into the lineup.
Doug, we lost you at the end. You said he gives us an option, and then.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, he gives. I think he gives the coaches an option. Now we have 7 experienced players. Mikkel has played deep into the World Championships and won, and so he's an experienced player internationally, getting more experience every day. And then obviously Scandella and Bortz have played a lot of NHL games, and the 4 above them with Leddy in that group now have played a lot. So it gives us different looks that the coach can use, whether he, depending on who he wants to pair Nick with, and maybe situations during the game.
Doug, is he somebody you've always been looking at here, or did he kind of just jump in here late and gave you a chance to jump out?
Well, I think as the season progressed and we started to look for defensemen, he was on that list of players that we've scouted intensely over the last couple of months. He's not an unknown player, though, to the Western Conference and us, where he's played prior to the Islanders, and then watching him play last year. So, this has been a difficult season as far as the cap. I think if you look at the NHL salary cap, well over half the teams are at the cap or have played the whole season in LTI. Our situation this year was dollar in, dollar out. So when you bring a player like Nick in, we had to move out $5.5 million in cap space. Detroit was able to assume half of that, and then the Sundqvist portion equaled 5-5, and we were able to make a deal where dollar in, dollar out.
Hey Doug, do you think a move like this can help the intensity of the Blues?
I don't think any one player is going to help the intensity of the Blues. That has to come from our leadership group. That has to start with the guys that wear letters. But also it's everybody. It's everyone's responsibility on the team to prepare to play the right way to win hockey games. And the NHL season's not 82 Rembrandts. And right now we're going through a play right now that's not indicative of winning hockey. And we have to get out of that. So I don't think any one player is going to come in and change that. That has to come from within, and that's going to be up to the players to get that done.
Doug, how would you describe your interest level in some of the top guys that were available, and also your decision not to give up what looks like extremely high prices to get those guys?
Well, I think you want to be involved in everything. It's hard, JR, to, you wish you could play at free agency, and then you wish you could play at the draft trading capital, and you wish you could play now trading capital. But at some point, you just can't do everything all the time. And we've been a competitive team for the better part of a decade now. We were able to keep our first round pick and get a good prospect in Neighbors, a player that we think should be pushing very hard for our team next year. Bolduc seems to be a very good young player, and we wanted to add to that. Again, you can't always play in that market of giving up future first round picks all the time, and this was a year we didn't feel that it was important to do that. Now, that being said, we've done it in the past for a player like Bouwmeester, who had this playoff run and another one, and then we were able to sign them. So giving up a first round pick for a rental this year didn't seem to make, and quite honestly, the quality of player, in our opinion, we didn't view first round assets as something we wanted to give away at this time.
Doug, are you talking about a long term with Nick Leddy, or is this a wait and see?
This is a wait and see. Again, JT, you look at the salary cap when it's going to be flat to increase by $1 million. Right now we have 8 of our 9 forwards coming back, with David Perron being the only UFA. As I said, we have neighbors coming in here. So it's a flat cap when you don't have many expiring contracts means things are going to be tight. So we're focused on now till the end of the season, and then we're going to reassess our whole group on how we played, what the final result was, and how we can make sure we're a very competitive team next year.
Doug, I know plus minus isn't the end all be all, but Lucas wasn't very good here. Any thoughts on that in terms of how he?
Letty, you're talking about?
Yeah, his plus minus wasn't very good this year. Just any thoughts about that? And realizing that's not the end all.
Yeah, I think when you're on a developing team and playing against the other team's top players all night long, and a team that's not winning, they're probably losing more than they're winning, your plus minus is going to take a hit. I think if you want to see reflective on how good the player is you go back to the team that he was on in the Islanders when, I said they played in the semifinals 2 years in a row, and he played 22 minutes a night in the playoffs, and on a team that was thought as a very good defending team, he was at the tops of the ice time within 12 seconds of the 2 guys that were with him. So I think any stats travel with the competitive part of your team.
What can you say about Sundqvist and the service and the play that he gave you for 4.5 years?
Yeah, Sonny's been one of my favorite players, quite honestly. He's you got the nickname Sonny because of Sundqvist, but it is Sonny. He's always got a smile on. I've always enjoyed being around him. The last couple of years we spent a lot of time together at the practice rink as he's been coming back and working hard from his injuries. A really good player, always going to have a great memory here as a Blue. What we've seen with David Perron and other players in the past, that hockey's a small world. You never know when you reconnect with somebody, but it was part and parcel was you have to create space to make these deals, and also the role that he was playing on our team right now with a flat cap. If you're not in, he wasn't in our group of 9 this year, and a $2.75 million cap hit. We have to make sure we're spreading that out in ways that we can put a top team on the ice. And but all in all, obviously Oskar Sundqvist is going to be remembered fondly here, on and off the ice. I wish him nothing but the best on the ice, health-wise. I wish him speedy recoveries from the surgeries that he's had, and I think he's going to be a good player for a long time. And this organization was better having him part of it than it was before he got here.
Doug, what can you tell us about with
Yeah, an experienced player, very, very physical, hard-nosed player. Has been a call-up player throughout his career. He's played, I think, 131 NHL games. When we made this trade, obviously you want to carry 7 defensemen. It was not moving a defenseman in this trade made Jake Wallman become the 8th. And so what we did is we moved him, gave him a fresh opportunity in Detroit. He's an unrestricted free agent with the years over. We brought in a player that we know can provide us service when needed, and a great organizational player, and having him with our group for next year also is a plus.
Doug,
oh, go ahead, Jeremy.
Doug, I was going to say, I know you're not going to get into details, but, there are some other names that were being talked about, and you see trades made for them, and people wonder maybe the Blues could have made that deal. Are there things that you deal with that no one else would see, like, maybe a team wants your second rounder this year that you didn't have, or maybe the player, didn't want to sign an 8-year deal in St. Louis? Are there things behind the scenes that maybe prohibit those types of moves from being made that we don't see?
Yeah, usually, JR, my experience is that teams they're not hung up on what year they get their pick, whether it's a second or a third, if it's this year or next year. It might be the fit, it might be a kicker added on, but there are a lot of things that go on every deal. A lot of it is cap related. A lot of it is futures. So there's a lot of moving parts on every deal. So I guess to say, yeah, you probably don't know everything that we're working on behind closed doors, and that's the difficult part. I was saying earlier to someone that, when I started in this industry, there was no, really the internet was just coming on board, but there was no Twitter, there was no instant information, and I took it personal when players' names were being bantied around. I didn't think it was fair to them or their families, but now I just understand that's just part and parcel of today's world. Rumors fly. Most of the guys that, not on this call, but around maybe nationally, they bat about 250 in the rumors that they start, and they seem to be fine with that. I'm not really sure what that does. Probably gets you more clicks than most people or that you want, but I've never been a big fan of reporting things that aren't factual, but that just seems to happen these days.
Hey, Doug,
Speaking of Twitter, Doug, what can you say, if anything, about the fact that Binnington's name was out?
Well, I think I just answered that question.
hey, Doug, you spoke a lot in the past about looking for an identity for that fourth line. Was that an area that you were exploring at the trade deadline, or do you feel like those options are still internal?
Well, I think they are internal. I think we've seen a little bit of uptick with Torpachenko and McEachern right now. Again, when you're dollar in, dollar out, you pick the player and you tell me his salary, and then you can do the math on who would have had to leave to get that done. So it's not just this isn't infinite number of dollars it can spend. So you have to, yeah. Would you like to improve in different areas? You sure would, but when you're at the cap, you have to deal with the reality of the space you have.
Doug, I just want to make sure too that I'm clear on this too. If you wait on a guy like Letty and kind of a wait and see approach, does this give you some flexibility and options for the off season to do some things maybe that weren't there before that you'll have a chance to do now?
Well, we'll see. Our focus is on the rest of this year, but we've cleared up some cap space for next year. We have some young players that we think are coming, and by not, going in with multiple first-round picks or first and seconds and a lot of future assets, we do have some ammunition to play if we decide to at the draft or in free agency.
Will Witkowski start for you guys in spring?
Yes, he will. Yeah.
Hey, Doug, I know you don't get caught up in the white noise ever, but when you don't go all in or make a significant move, people will say that maybe that speaks to the confidence level that he has in this group. I just want to give you a chance to respond. You made one move today, fairly significant, but what's your response to your confidence level in this group after today?
Well, I think I think JR, it's interesting because, and this is a real positive, quite honestly. I take it as a badge of honor. Like we're sitting right now second in this division, third in the conference, and the question that you gave me acts like we're an awful team. We're third in the conference, and we have a good team. We're not playing particularly well right now, and we have to get through that. But I believe that the guys are going to get through that. And then it goes back earlier to the, and I do read whatever all you guys write. I find it fascinating. We should be all in now, and then you're going to write an article next week that they got no prospects. So I mean, you can't be all in on everything all the time.
Doug, do you personally and your staff relish the challenge of the bar? Obviously, as competitors, relish the challenge of the bar being set as high as it is, especially this time of year?
I do, and I know our staff does. You want to play, you want to be a gold standard in the NHL. You strive to be the best, and the one thing that I take I take pride in is that when you look back to 2010-11. It was Chicago and St. Louis in the Central Division. And then it was St. Louis and Winnipeg popped in there for a bit. Then Nashville popped in there for a bit. Now Colorado's in there. But the one constant usually in the top four has been St. Louis. And that's a testament to the great work our players do year in, year out, and our scouting staff. So we love the challenge. We love being pushed by our fan base because it makes us be better every day. But with that reality, you do have to have an eye on your draft picks and your future and your cap and all those other things. If you know, I did work in an organization 100 years ago, pre-cap, and a lot of these questions would never be asked because you would just outspend your competition. Now you have to outthink your competition.
Army, you had a stretch there where with Sonny and with Schwartzy, when those guys were playing, you guys won, and if those guys were injured and out, you didn't. Who would you expect now can be those drivers, those engine guys for this team?
Well, tongue in cheek, but I think I read a stat, and you guys, I shouldn't say it because I haven't verified it myself, but I think we're like 15-4-3 when Brownie's in the lineup. So maybe that's the guy we got to get going every night. But no, there's certain players that you rely on. We rely on O'Reilly. We rely on Shen, Parenko. You know, we have a very good tandem of goalies. You know, we need the engine. The engine of the St. Louis Blues has always been the sum of all its parts over just one part. And so we're not a singular driven team. Where if one player goes out, we don't think we should be competitive.
Doug, with what was happening with Vladdy in the beginning of the season with the request for trade, was there any interest, anybody asking regarding Vladdy in this trade period?
No, that Vladdy thing went away very quickly. Quite honestly, in training camp, he came into play. He's having a great year. As I said, I get it. We're not Colorado. We're not the best team in hockey, but we're competitive in our division. We're very competitive in our conference, and that hasn't been an issue, and it wasn't an issue for anyone, quite honestly, all year.
Doug, is Letty going to join the team in Washington and be available for tomorrow?
Yes, he is. Yes.
Hey, Doug, piggybacking on you saying that we'll write next week that you don't have any prospects. How important is it, because the guys you're drafting now in the first round and the assets you have coming up now are going to be, you know, available in 3, 4, 5 years, hopefully, when a lot of these contracts are getting into the back half. Just how important is it to hang on to these assets and not make that kind of big move right now because of that? Yeah,
it is important because, you know, I look at a guy like Neighbors, who's obviously a highly sought after commodity. I have him penciled in, if not on our team right out of training camp, very close. And I think one of the things and I give full credit to our amateur staff, that's well beyond my scope of expertise, but you know, we don't have to go, JR, to a total, you know, 60-point rebuild, because they found Kyrou and Thomas at areas of the draft that you usually don't find players you build around. And so because we have those two players and we can grow with them, I think we're able to get these younger players up and running. And at some point, like we did with Shattenkirk and Stastny, we may have to move veteran players around for picks to try and exploit that. But our older players aren't quite old yet. You know, they're certainly not young, but you know, 29, 30, 31 is still a very competitive age in the NHL, especially with expansion. Expansion always tax on it 12 to 16 months to a good player's career, because not because they get better, because the talent gets spread out more, and then the talent even gets spread out more with a flat cap or a cap that doesn't escalate by very much. So I think that this team has the opportunity to be competitive for a number of years, but it's the turnover, not the turnover, the appreciation of Kyrou and Thomas, and now, you know, they're getting their eyes open that they have to be good every night. It's not they no longer have the luxury of being good, you know, 3 out of 5 games. They got to be good 5 out of 5 games, because that's what we think of them, and that's the status they have on our team.
Doug, as you talk to other managers, how often did Neighbors' name come up? Sometimes that's a pretty good way to judge your young players.
Yeah, well, I actually do that after. I'll go back in and we rate all of our prospects, and then I re-rate them after now and after the draft, because when people call about your guys, you know if you have good players. And there's been a few players, this year that I got calls on that excited me. So I don't want to get into specific names, but we have some prospects that a lot of people might not know a lot about that do have value around the league.
Doug, this isn't trade deadline related, but I think you only have 10 healthy forwards right now. You have someone coming up from Springfield for tomorrow?
Yeah, we do. I'm going to wait. Craig's in the air now, but we will be bringing somebody up under emergency.